Remember way back when we were trying to figure out what the applications are for our technology? Well, now we can do it. What we've done is we've said, first we begin to look around and we map what our technology can do to the needs of people in various applications. When we find a fit where it looks like there's a fit, we delve deeper. One of the things we look at is the relationship to the dominant design to see if that fit is really strong and if it's likely to be stable over time. If it is, we need to understand what the buying criteria for people are, and we need to develop a value proposition that describes our price, performance, ease of use in terms of the criteria that people are typically buying on, that is performance, best value, price, or sometimes availability. Now, we can go back and visit all the applications we've thought of and once make a final decision on where we're going to focus, because now that we know what's going on, we can sort of say which application can we provide a value proposition for that is really strong. That's where our first competitive opening should lie. We need to play to our strengths, not where we're weak. So that's how you down select from multiple applications to a specific one. But I don't know if it's right. How do I determine if that application really is the best application? Well, as you'll see if you look at Commercialization 101 and you look at some of the canned templates we have for you, the trick is to understand, guess what? Yep, what end users want. So how do we figure that out? We pick up the phone and we talk to them, or we go and visit them. When I go to talk to end users, and I can talk to experts about what they think end users will want, I can do that too. When I go to talk to these people, I want to ask each one basically the same set of questions. Now, I need a free-flowing discussion in order to pick their brains. And in order to have a free-flowing discussion, I don't want to read off a piece of paper where I am reading the questions, and every now and then I will look up at them, and it will be like I am doing it this way. Not a good way to have a discussion. What I have to do is I have to think about what information I want to collect and then just work it into my discussion with them so that discussion flows. And if they're really excited and going off on a tangent, I can follow that tangent if it's providing useful information for me, even though it's not necessarily on my list of questions. This style of interviewing, where the questionnaire is for you, the person who's talking to somebody, rather than for the respondent, is called semi-structured interviewing in social sciences. But notice, because we collect the same data from each person, we can look at how that, we can use descriptive statistics even if we want to examine what we've learned from talking to people. The other thing about talking to end users and experts is you have to be able to offer them something. You don't want to just go to somebody and say, hey, let me pick your brains, because it's like, well, why should I spend time with you? You want to engage in a dialogue, so you have to think about what you can tell them that may be of interest to them. One thing that's going to be of interest to them is what you're doing, because that expert, or that if they're an expert, they're trying to keep track of what's going on in the field, and if they're an end user, they're looking for new things that they might be able to use. So talking about what you have will probably be of interest to them. You can also say, oh, I read this, and this said this, what do you think of that? Or I talked to this person and they said X, Y, and Z, what do you think of that? So trade information back and forth. That's the best tip I can give you on talking to experts and end users. Make it an exchange of information. That way everybody wins. They're more likely to talk to you, and if you have to follow up, they'll be happier to talk to you a second time. If it's worthwhile, you can structure the interaction with experts with expert panels and Delphi studies. An expert panel is simply done this way. You go and call up a bunch of people who you think are experts, and you say, who would you go to if you were looking for an expert? And then the people who turn up the most often are the people you go to. You ask them all the questions and you collect the data that way. That's an expert panel. If you want, you can pull them all into the same room and talk that way. That's a focus group. You have 5 to 7 people there, and you're guiding, or 12, 13 people is about as big as I go. You're guiding the discussion. Anyways, get the experts, talk to them, expert panel. Now, if you use a specific type of way of talking to them, then you have a Delphi study. In a Delphi study, you ask every expert the exact same question. You take their answers back, you remove the identifier so nobody knows who's saying what, and then you feed it back to everybody and you say, what do you think of this? The goal of a Delphi panel is to try and find consensus, and you keep on cycling back and back until consensus emerges as people bounce off of each other, or until it's clear that no consensus will emerge. So there are more formal ways of collecting expert opinions, whether it's worthwhile going through these higher levels of putting together an expert panel or then going the next step and doing a Delphi study. Really depends on the value of what you're doing and how important the results of your data are. Are you in a preliminary look, or are you doing a final look right before you go to market, and you're going to share that data with somebody who is going to say, okay, based upon these results, I'm either going to acquire your technology or not.